There is a version of you that walks into a room and nobody looks up. And there is another version of you, same face, same clothes, same life, who walks in and something shifts. The air changes, people straighten, conversations pause. And that version didn't get a promotion, didn't win an award, didn't announce anything. That version just decided, quietly and completely, to carry themselves differently. That's the secret nobody tells you. The world doesn't respond to who you are, it responds to who you believe you are. Watch people. Really watch them. The ones who get the best tables, the fastest service, the most respect in meetings, they aren't always the most qualified. They aren't always the wealthiest, but they move like they belong in the front of every room. They speak like their words have already been agreed upon. They don't ask for space. They occupy it. And because they project it so completely, the world reflects it back like a mirror. This isn't arrogance. Arrogance is noise. What I'm describing is something quieter, something far more powerful. It's an unspoken declaration, I know what I'm worth, and I don't need you to confirm it. Most people are waiting to feel confident before they act confident, waiting to be chosen before they feel worthy, waiting for someone to tell them they've earned the right to walk tall. But that permission never comes. It was never going to come. Because confidence isn't a reward handed to you after you've proven yourself. It's a decision you make before the proof exists. The people who figured this out early didn't have better circumstances. They just stopped waiting. They stopped shrinking themselves into a size that made other people comfortable. And the moment they did, something remarkable happened. People started treating them like they had always deserved it. Think about how you hold your body right now. Think about how you walk into a conversation you're nervous about. Think about how you sit in a room full of people you feel inferior to. You make yourself smaller. Your shoulders close in. Your voice drops. Your sentences turn into questions even when they're meant to be statements. You say, I think maybe, when you mean I know. You apologize for taking up space. And every single one of those signals, every single one of them, is broadcasting a message to every person in the room. And that message is, I don't fully believe in myself. Treat me accordingly. And they do. Not because they're cruel, but because humans are wired to take people at their own self-assessment. Here is the truth that changes everything. People are not mind readers. They cannot see inside you. They cannot measure your intelligence, your capability, your depth of experience just by looking. All they have is the signal you send. And you are sending a signal at every moment, whether you realize it or not. Your posture is a signal. Your pace is a signal. The firmness in your handshake is a signal. The way you pause before you speak instead of rushing to fill silence, that is a signal. And when all of those signals say I am someone worth paying attention to, people pay attention. They lean in. They remember your name. They return your calls. They offer you opportunities they never technically announced. You've seen it happen to other people and called it luck. It wasn't luck. It was alignment. Alignment between how they saw themselves and how they showed up. And that alignment is available to every single person willing to stop waiting for the world to go first. Now I want you to think about a moment in your life when you felt it, when something clicked and you moved through the world without that familiar weight of self-doubt dragging at your heels. Maybe it was one afternoon, maybe one conversation, maybe just one walk from your car to a building where for some reason you felt certain. Recall how differently people responded to you in that moment. Someone held the door a beat longer. Someone smiled first. Someone listened more closely when you spoke. That wasn't coincidence. That was cause and effect. You shifted your energy and the world adjusted around you like water finding a new level. The question is, why can't that be every day? And the answer is, it can. But first you have to understand what's actually happening beneath the surface. When you act like you're the best, not the best at everything, not superior to everyone, but the best version of yourself moving through the world with full ownership, you trigger something ancient in the psychology of everyone around you. Human beings evolved to follow certainty. In uncertain environments, the person who moves without hesitation, who speaks without apology, who doesn't scan the room for approval before making a decision, that person gets followed. That person gets trusted. That person gets treated like a leader even when no title exists. Because something in the human brain says, if they're that sure, maybe they know something I don't. So how do you actually do it? How do you make the shift from someone who waits for the world to validate them to someone who moves through life like the validation was never necessary? It starts smaller than you think. It starts with the decision to stop narrating your own weakness before anyone else has the chance to see it. Most people pre-apologize. They walk into a room and before anyone has judged them, they've already said sorry for existing. They say things like this, might be a stupid idea, or I'm not sure if this is right, or sorry to bother you. They dismantle their own authority before they've even had the chance to build it. And what they don't realize is that those tiny verbal surrenders are doing enormous damage, not just to how others see them, but to how they see themselves. Every time you apologize for a thought before you've shared it, your brain registers it. Every time you shrink in a doorway or let your voice trail off at the end of a sentence, your nervous system records it as evidence. Evidence that you don't fully belong. Evidence that your presence is an inconvenience. And over time, you don't just behave like someone who doesn't believe in themselves. You become one. The habit of self-diminishment becomes identity. And the terrifying part is that it feels like honesty. It feels like humility. But it isn't. It's fear wearing the mask of modesty. Real humility is quiet strength that doesn't need to announce itself. Real humility is the person who sits at the table without needing to dominate it, but who also doesn't fold the moment someone pushes back. Real humility knows its worth and simply doesn't feel the need to perform it. What most people practice isn't humility at all. It's self-erasure. And self-erasure doesn't make you likable. It makes you invisible. And invisible people don't get opportunities. They get overlooked, underpaid, underestimated, and then they wonder why the world never seemed to notice how hard they were working. Here is what the people who carry themselves with quiet authority understand. Your energy enters the room before your words do. Before you open your mouth, before you introduce yourself, before you say a single thing, people have already begun forming an impression. And that impression is built entirely from the non-verbal signals your body is broadcasting in real time, the speed at which you move, whether your eyes are steady or darting, whether your breath is controlled or shallow, whether you occupy your chair or perch on the edge of it like you're ready to flee. These things speak louder than any resume, any credential, any carefully rehearsed introduction. And the people who seem magnetic, who seem to naturally command a room, have learnt, consciously or not, to make those signals work for them instead of against them. Slow down. That is the first physical instruction. Slow everything down. People who are uncertain move fast. They talk fast because they're afraid of silence. They walk fast because they're uncomfortable being seen. They answer fast because they haven't learnt that a pause is not weakness, it's weight. When you slow down, you signal that you are not afraid of the moment. You signal that you're not in a hurry to escape it. And that alone, just that deceleration, changes how people read you. The slow speaker is the one the room leans toward. The slow walker is the one who seems to own the hallway. Slowness, when it comes from a place of inner certainty, reads as power. Every single time. Stop explaining yourself. This one will feel unnatural at first because you've been taught that justification is politeness. You've been taught that if you want something, you should explain why, and apologize for wanting it, and make sure the other person knows you understand how much you're asking. But watch what the most respected people in any room actually do. They make requests without preambles. They state opinions without disclaimers. They say no without 3 paragraphs of reasoning. And that directness doesn't make them rude, it makes them respected. Because over-explaining signals that you expect to be denied. It signals that you've already imagined the rejection and you're preemptively defending against it. And when people sense that you expect to be denied, they often oblige. When you act like your time, your opinion, and your presence carry value, when you move through interactions as if the outcome isn't dependent on the other person's approval, something counterintuitive happens. People become more eager to earn yours. This is not manipulation. This is psychology as old as human civilization. We value what seems to value itself. We pursue what doesn't pursue us. We respect those who are not visibly desperate for our respect, and the moment you stop audibly needing something from the people around you, they will begin moving toward you in ways that would have felt impossible before. Look at how you handle disagreement. Most people collapse under it. Someone pushes back on their idea and they immediately backpedal. Someone raises their voice and they shrink. Someone questions their judgment and they start questioning it too, out loud, in real time, which only confirms for everyone watching that the original position wasn't held with any real conviction. The person who acts like they're the best doesn't perform certainty by being louder. They perform it by being steadier. When challenged, they pause, they consider, and then they either hold their ground calmly or they update their position based on logic, not pressure. There is an enormous difference between changing your mind because someone made a good point and changing your mind because someone made you uncomfortable. The first is intelligence. The second is submission. And people around you know the difference, even if they never say so. Your consistency is your credibility. If you are calm and grounded on Monday and rattled and reactive on Wednesday, people will never fully trust the image you project. Because trust is built not on your best moments, but on your average ones. It's built on what people can expect from you when things get difficult. The person who maintains their composure when everything around them is uncertain, that person becomes a fixed point. And fixed points attract. People orbit around the ones who don't move with every wind. They lean on the ones who seem anchored. And being that person, that anchor, has nothing to do with having all the answers. It has everything to do with your relationship with uncertainty. The best don't pretend there's no chaos. They just refuse to let the chaos decide who they are. There is something that happens to people when they finally stop performing weakness as a social strategy, because that is what it is, if you look closely enough. Performing weakness is a strategy. It's a way of saying, don't come for me, I'm not a threat, I'm already small so there's nothing to take. It's a defense mechanism built in environments where standing tall made you a target. And for many people, that environment was childhood. That environment was a household where confidence was punished, where ambition was mocked, where wanting more than what you had was treated as arrogance. And they learnt to stay small, to stay safe. But they carried that strategy into a world where it no longer serves them. Into offices and relationships and negotiations where smallness doesn't protect you anymore. It just costs you. The moment you recognize that your self-diminishment is a habit and not a truth, everything becomes available. Because habits can be broken. Identities built on old fear can be rebuilt on present reality. And the present reality is this: you are not in that room anymore. You are not that child who had to make themselves invisible to survive. You are a person with capacity, with experience, with something real to offer. And the world will not discover that on your behalf. You have to show it. Not through boasting, not through aggression, but through the quiet, daily, consistent act of carrying yourself like someone who has already decided their own worth. Start noticing where you shrink, not to judge yourself, but to see the pattern clearly. Notice the meetings where you have something to say, but you wait for someone else to say it first. Notice the moments where you're given a compliment, and instead of receiving it, you immediately deflect it, minimize it, explain it away. Notice when you're the first to laugh at yourself before anyone else has the chance, using self-deprecation as armor. These are the places where you are quietly, habitually, telling the world, I don't fully trust myself. And the world is listening. The world is always listening, even when it looks like it isn't paying attention. Begin practicing reception. When someone acknowledges something you did well, let it land. Say thank you, and let the silence after it exist without filling it with disclaimers. That silence is not awkward. It's dignified. It's the space of someone who can receive recognition without flinching. When someone asks for your opinion, give it directly. Not I don't know, what do you think? As a reflex. Not the opinion shaped entirely by what you think they want to hear. Your actual perspective, stated clearly, without a question mark hanging off the end of it. These small moments accumulate. Every time you choose presence over retreat, your nervous system recalibrates. Your brain starts collecting new evidence that it is safe to be seen, evidence that your voice doesn't need to apologize for existing. And slowly, the story you tell yourself about who you are begins to change. Because here is what nobody warns you about. When you start acting like the best version of yourself, when you start moving with that quiet certainty, people will not all respond warmly at first. Some people have a relationship with your smallness. Some people in your life have organized their own sense of self around the fact that you stay in a particular lane. Your boss who never expected much from you. Your friend who always needed to feel slightly more together than you. The family member who defined the role you'd play before you were old enough to choose it yourself. When you shift, those people feel it. And some of them will push back, not always consciously, but they'll make comments. They'll question your new energy. They'll call it arrogance when it's actually just self-respect. They'll say you've changed like it's an accusation. Let them. That discomfort they feel is not your responsibility to soothe. It is the friction of you outgrowing a container that was never the right size for you. The people who are meant to be in your life at the level you're growing into will celebrate the shift. They will be drawn to the newer, fuller version of you. They will say things like, "I always knew you had this in you." And the ones who need you small will drift. And that drifting, as painful as it might feel in the moment, is not loss. It is the natural consequence of expansion. You cannot grow and stay the same size simultaneously. Now think about the specific area of your life where you need this most urgently. Because this isn't abstract philosophy. This is practical. Where are you being most underestimated right now? Where are you accepting treatment that your actual worth would never accept? Is it in how you allow people to speak to you in the workplace? Is it in a relationship where your needs are consistently treated as secondary? Is it in how you negotiate, how you price your work, how you present your ideas, how you carry yourself in rooms full of people you've decided are more important than you? Identify the arena, because the shift doesn't happen in the general, it happens in the specific. Walk into that arena differently, not with aggression, not with a performance of confidence so forced that everyone can see the seams, but with something more sustainable, with the decision that you will no longer volunteer your own diminishment, that you will speak when you have something to say, that you will hold eye contact instead of looking away first, that you will stop filling every silence with reassurance that you know your place. Your place is wherever you decide to stand, and when you stand there fully, when you occupy your actual size without apology, something irreversible begins to happen. People recalibrate. They update their file on you. They start responding to who you actually are instead of who you train them to think you were. And you will feel it. The shift is not invisible. You will notice it in the texture of your conversations, in the way people pause before they dismiss you and then don't dismiss you, in the way opportunities start appearing in the spaces that your old smallness would have kept blocked, in the way you start waking up with a different relationship to the day ahead, not dread, not performance anxiety, but something quieter and more solid, something that feels like ground beneath your feet instead of ice. That feeling is not arrogance, it is not delusion, it is the experience of living in alignment with your own worth for the first time in a long time, maybe for the first time ever. The world does not hand anything to the hesitant. It does not reward the ones who waited politely at the edge of the room, hoping to be invited in. It opens, slowly, then all at once, for the ones who decided. Who decided they were worth the best table, the honest conversation, the real opportunity, the full life. Who decided not because the evidence was already in, but because they understood that the evidence follows the decision. It always has. It always will. You don't wait to feel worthy. You act worthy. And then you watch, with something close to wonder, as the world rearranges itself around that single, quiet, unshakable choice. Act like you're the best. Not to dominate anyone. Not to shrink the people around you, but to finally, fully, stop shrinking yourself. Because the version of you that walks in without apology, that speaks without a question mark, that holds the room not through force but through presence, that version doesn't just change how people treat you, it changes everything.